We'll go ahead and do the media avail now. We're going to go to a grocery store and another place that they'd like to show us that really, I think, gives a pretty good overview of some of the damage that they've sustained here. But we'll go ahead and take your questions, and then we're going to go ahead and visit some sites after that.
So, Governor, can you give us any update about are there any more counties that are under a disaster declaration and where we sit with maybe some federal movement?
Yeah. So I just gave a verbal for 3 more counties. It was Grundy, Jackson, and Jones were the 3 that were added to the 20. As we look at some of the damage as we're traveling across the state, I went back east again. We've been in Davenport, and then here, and then we're going to visit some farms heading back. And then Secretary Naig actually went west and north, and so we're collecting the data. I think, Joyce, if you want to speak to that, but it looks like we probably, with the amount that we're seeing with the lines down, stand a good chance of qualifying.
Yeah, we're pretty comfortable based on the electrical utility damage as well as the debris, which is a key piece of the federal declaration in this event, that we will be able to successfully submit. We can't, of course, promise that, but the team is already coordinating with FEMA and gathering the information and talking with them about the declaration request. So,
what's the typical timeline for that? I mean, I know that you guys, like you said, it's still evolving and it's much different, but how once you submit it, how much?
Well, you know, when we were dealing with the floods, I'll just give you that example, and with Marshalltown, we were able to get an expedited
2 or 3 days?
2 or 3 days, a federal disaster declaration. I spoke to the president yesterday. He called to see how things were going in Iowa. He did say if there's anything else that we can do, be sure and let us know. So they're aware of the damage that's been done, not only to Iowa, but Indiana, Wisconsin, Illinois also received some damage. So I think holistically, especially when we talk about crop damage, it's going to be significant. It certainly is in the state of Iowa. Marshall County was hit pretty bad again. We came in, what road was that? Because it was by the cemetery and the park.
Highway 14.
Highway 14, incredible amount of debris and damage done there. And then, like I said, we're going to tour some more. Even the fire station received some damage on the backside here. I was talking to the chief, and he was talking in a 12-hour period. They responded to over 133 calls just in a 12-hour period. Overall, there were over 300 some calls, I think, that came in on 911, and the rest were probably handled through through the police department and other emergency responders. But you know, just a significant response at the local level again. Our emergency responders and our firefighters and just the EMS, just across the board. It's incredible to see the collaboration that takes place in these communities. Not to mention the volunteers that show up and are helping get the debris off the roads and to the side and ready to get it hauled.
Governor, what's the crop damage? What kind of
well, I don't have, yeah.
What's it going to do to Iowa's economy?
Well, you know, gosh, I think I read this morning 93% have crop insurance, so that's a good thing. But it is going to have an impact. Right now, yesterday, early estimates, so I don't have any updates from that. I think we were talking about approximately 10 million acres, so that's about a third or higher of the planted, I think they estimated 25 million acres of corn and soy. We'll kind of wait and see what the soybeans look like. Corn is devastating, but I'll tell you something else that we saw yesterday, and you'll see where the areas where it was hard hit is just the number of structures, the bins that were down. So storage for the corn that is able to be harvested is going to be a significant issue this fall. There's no way that they're going to be able to rebuild the bins this fall. Materials, construction, I mean, just across the board, it's not going to happen. So that's going to be a significant issue as well.
Anything specific you think might happen for Marshalltown, considering just 2 years ago you're here? We've talked to Mayor as well, but kind of your thoughts on
my heart,
hard hit.
Yeah, my heart just sank. I just can't imagine hearing, and we were talking about that in there, hearing the siren go off 2 years after the devastation that they experienced with the tornado. And the mayor can speak to this, but he said it's more widespread right now. I think just that the amount of damage across the entire city is horrific.
North to south, east to west damage, but everybody took the siren pretty seriously this time.
Yeah. And I just, just from a mental perspective of trying to deal with all of that, it's just tough. And they're hit pretty hard again. And so, you know, we're going to continue. Our team hopefully will be as responsive as we were with the tornado. They've got a great team on the ground, and the coordination and just the communication was good. The mayor knows how to get a hold of me. He did if he's not getting what he needs. So I appreciate that, though. We need to know. So
the governor was here the day after the tornado, and her office has been wonderful since then. So
and
it's kind of deja vu for us. But we really appreciate the help that we've gotten, and we've become accustomed to getting that kind of help.
yeah, thank you. It's a great team effort. I can't say that enough. So they're still assessing the buildings that have been damaged. So they're working on that, and they're putting those numbers in as they get them. But that's something we need to collect. The other thing, Joyce is trying to streamline the process. I don't know if we don't have a sign off on that with accounting for the debris. That really helps our local governments in expediting that process, so they can start to get the kind of the total damage that was done, and that's really important in really us getting the federal disaster declaration.
What's your message to Iowans who have been impacted?
Well, just hang in there. I mean, you take this on top of COVID and what we've experienced 2 years ago. This has been a rough year, but I tell you, Iowans are resilient. It has been such a testimony to who we are as I go through these communities, and just once again, I'm reminded how people just show up to help in any way they can. We were in Tama and Toledo yesterday, and I was Joyce, and the general was there with General Correll. They had 4 emergency managers and teams from other counties that were on site helping, and that's reflective everywhere we go. So the people that show up to help, these communities is just inspiring. So hang in there. We're going to get through this, and just so proud of Iowans and our first responders, our emergency managers, our local officials, and how they just really step up, step in, and step into action so quickly. I know we've worked with the hospital. I don't know if the representative's here, but it sounds like Alliant has done a great job. They're working with the hospital. We're trying to keep the residents there. They didn't want to evacuate, so it sounds like that they're going to get that done, which is really, really good. So I really appreciate the CEO is here. John Larson was inside just checking in to make sure that the community was getting what they needed, and so that's a pretty good. In fact, I didn't know he was going to be here, so when I walked in, I thought, wow, you got the CEO of Alliant that's on the ground in Marshalltown, making sure they're getting what they need. So that's good.
So last question, Governor,
Yeah.
if you put I don't know if you have any early estimates of how much it's going to cost to fully recover in the state. Is there any
Yeah.
sense of the scope of the damage?
I don't yet, Caroline. As soon as we start getting some of those numbers, of course, I've asked my team. The vice president is going to be in town tomorrow, so I want to be able to give as early, give any indication of what that looks like. I think we'll be able, potentially, just when we talk about the number of lines down and the power outages, that alone is significant. We know we have some estimates on crop damage. I don't know if we have a good sense of what the structure damage is at this point and what we do moving forward with the loss of our ability to store. So we'll run through some of those things and some of the early numbers that we have, just being very mindful when we do that this is very early on in the process, and we would intend those numbers to increase. So anybody else have any other?
Is there any estimate as to when power is going to be turned back on for a majority of Iowans, or is that
Yeah,
still very
they're making good progress. I tried to kind of set that expectation in the press conference the other day, because honestly, our utility companies are very good about getting us back up and going in a pretty short turnaround time. And just because of the amount of lines down and the widespread nature of the storm damage, it's probably going to be a little bit longer. So, they're hoping for Friday and this weekend. Isn't that kind of what you're hearing too?
By Saturday as well.
Saturday, yeah. So,
by Saturday all Iowans?
well, we're hoping. That's I don't want to,
Yeah, we don't want to say.
I don't want to. I want expectations to be realistic, and they're working day and night. And they're actually last night, when I got some updates, it was better than I thought it would be last night. So all of the utilities are out at SEOC right now. Chairman Huser is out there, so there's great communication that's taking place. And I just know that they're working diligently. I can tell you, and Alliant was telling us they have help coming, should be on the ground today, I think John said. And we were in Davenport this morning. They had 500 resources that were on the ground to help get them up and going. So that'll make a significant difference, just having the manpower and the trucks to start to address how extensive and widespread the damage is.
How much of Marshalltown is still without power right now?
I don't know that.
A very small part of the southern part of Marshalltown has power. The rest of us don't. If there are 28,000 people, I'd have to ballpark it at about 1,000 or 1,500 probably have it.
See, that's not very many. So we've got a lot of work to do. But they're working. They're out there working. So, anybody else have anything? Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Governor, again. I appreciate it.
Yeah.
Bye.